Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much for this invitation from the Amaro da Costa Institute. I'm glad we all can gather and let me tell you a little bit about the upcoming European election. This election to the European Parliament will take place between the 22nd and the 25th of May 2014. It's important to the parties that are members of the European People's Party, including your party, the CDS. The EPP has always been Europe's driving force, and in this crisis, our political family is the party of responsible government. Today, I will address the following areas. First, the new dynamics of the European elections due to the party candidates for the President of the Commission. Secondly, the EPP campaign. And thirdly, the process after the elections. Let me start with some facts. The election will, of course, take place in all the 28 member states. The voting turnout in the European elections has decreased over the years from 63% in 1979, that was the first direct election to the European Parliament, to 43% in 2009, that was the EU average. In my country, Czechia or the Czech Republic, the turnout is typically around 25%. Some say that the economic crisis has brought Europeans closer together in the face of adversity, and it's possible that this feeling of being together in a crisis will increase the turnout, but that remains to be seen, and I'm sure you have your own opinions about that, and perhaps we can discuss also this question in the question and answer session after I've finished. So let me start with the question of the candidates for the President of the European Commission. The 2014 European election is the first EU election to be held under the Lisbon Treaty, signed in the city. The treaty, which came to force in December 2009, says, this is a very important formulation, that the European Council should take the election results into account when proposing a candidate for the President of the European Commission. Now, there are lots of interpretations of this particular clause in the Lisbon Treaty, and I'll get to that later on. The Commission itself has proposed that each European political party should put forward a candidate for the Commission President. Previously, there were just national candidates, and that's still the case now. In the upcoming election, there are national party lists. That is not changing. What is changing is that the person that's going to head each European party's campaign, it's more a symbolic post in that the person doesn't actually appear on your voting papers. For example, here in Portugal, whoever's Mr. Juncker is not going to be on your election list, but you know that he's going to head the EPP campaign across the EU. You might call this an experiment in European democracy, and we'll have to see how that experiment is going to work out. The objective is to politicize the European debate, to increase democratic accountability of the Commission, to promote the party's election manifestos, increase awareness of EU politics, and potentially increase voter turnout. This is also because European politics is sometimes perceived as technocratic and remote. And the hope is that the EU-wide issues will be highlighted in the campaign through the persons of the candidates for the Commission President. Now, in the EPP, the nomination period was between the 13th February and the 5th of March. To be nominated, the candidate had to have the support of his or her own member party, as well as the endorsement of two member parties from two EU countries other than the country of the origin of the candidate. The EPP candidate was elected in the EPP Congress in Dublin in March. And you probably know that the nominated candidates were Michel Barnier, the commissioner responsible for internal market, Jean-Claude Juncker, the former Prime Minister of Luxembourg, and Valdis Dombrovskis, the former Prime Minister of Latvia, who withdrew just before the vote supporting Mr. Juncker. Juncker was then elected with a majority of 382 votes out of 627 votes, and was supported by, among others, Angela Merkel. Who are the other candidates? There are some parties which actually are not putting up their candidate for the Commission President. One is the ECR, the European Conservative and Reformists. They are opposed in principle to this idea. And also the right-wing populists, such as Marie Le Pen's party, the Front National, they are also not running any European-wide candidate. So the actual candidates are as follows. Martin Schulz is the current president of the European Parliament, and he is the candidate of the Socialist Party. For the Liberals, it's Guy Verhofstadt, the former Prime Minister of Belgium. For the European Green Party, there are two candidates running at the same time, José Bové, the French MEP, and Ska Keller, a German MEP. And for the European left, it's Alexis Tsipras, the leader of Syriza, the Greek party. There's a plan to have a presidential debate. The European Broadcasting Union will hold televised debates with the presidential candidates in the run-up to the elections. And there's a plan for a showdown between the two leading candidates, the leading in the polls, and that should be on the 15th of May. But I'm not clear that these terms actually have been confirmed, but this is the information that I got. Now, there is some criticism against the candidate procedure. For example, one criticism is that many top candidates or potentially powerful politicians are not wanting to run for the president of the Commission because they are currently holding high-level positions in their governments, and they don't want to risk being defeated because that would then damage their own domestic position. As I mentioned, the ECR and the Front National are saying that the procedure is undemocratic and it's a sham, and they said the European Council will actually not propose the chosen candidate. Another criticism is that a party-nominated Commission president could weaken the Commission and create increased conflict between the European Parliament and national governments, because the Commission would no longer be neutral to the same extent. And there's another criticism is that the Commission sometimes adjudicates, for example, in the areas of the single market. So if there's going to be a party person heading the Commission, it will damage the Commission's credibility as a neutral arbiter of disputes. Now, a bit about the EPP campaign. The EPP Action Programme for 2014 to 19 sets out EPP's priorities for the next term of the European Parliament, and it was voted through in the EPP Congress in Dublin. The EPP Manifesto is a shorter version of the action programme and outlines the main priorities. The main messages of the programme are that the EPP has been able to hold the Eurozone together over the economic crisis. It has re-established solidarity, and it laid the groundwork for Europe's recovery. And the EPP stands as the party of responsible government, of responsible budgeting, and of economic reforms that we need to increase our competitiveness. Some of the points for the upcoming 5 years, specifically the EPP wants to focus on the completion of the single market, on the reform of labor markets, on cutting administration, increasing international trade, specifically, for example, in relation to the United States, to invest in innovation and education, and overall becoming simpler and more democratic. The EPP is organizing an election campaign in Brussels. There is a campaign steering committee composed of the EPP party, the group in the European Parliament, ourselves, the Wilfried Martens Centre of the for European Studies, and also EPP member associations. A new element in this campaign is the e-campaign, the so-called e-campaign. There are 20 young e-campaigners who are working in the so-called war room in the EPP. They're focusing on getting the EPP message across through social media, such as Twitter and Facebook. They also monitor the political developments in each member state. The Martens Centre, we have our own initiative called Up to Youth, which was also presented in Dublin. It's an online initiative where young EU citizens have the opportunity to submit different proposals. And we presented this initiative in Dublin, where the 10 best young people presented their proposals mostly on education and youth employment. Now, what happens after the election? The actual procedure of selecting the Commission President has actually not changed very much when you compare it to the Treaty of Nice. The European Council and the European Parliament still play important roles. The Council will nominate the candidate for the Commission President on the basis of qualified majority voting. That means there have to be 18 member states and a majority of voting rights. That's 260 out of 352. So that's the qualified majority which is required for the European Council to agree on one candidate. That is then proposed to the European Parliament. So the crucial difference is the clause which I mentioned at the beginning, that the Council will take the election results into account in the appointment of the Commission President. Now, whether the Council will go for the selected candidate from the largest party is uncertain. The Council has not confirmed that it will propose the candidate from the political party that gained the largest amount of votes. For example, Angela Merkel has expressed reservations about this, and she has insisted that the Council is not obliged to select the candidate nominated by the largest political group. So this is an unprecedented situation, and there is a struggle between the Parliament, I would say, on the one hand, and the Council. Herman van Rompuy, the President of the Council, the current Council, has already called a meeting of the European Council for immediately after the election. As a counter move, the Parliament's main political groups issued a declaration, just yesterday in fact. They wish that the democratic will of the European people is carried through. That means that the party that gets the most votes also gets the Commission President. Just perhaps a final point here is that there are other posts in the game. So we're not just talking about the President of the Commission, but there is also the President of the Council, which also needs to be appointed. And in addition, there is the High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. That's another post, which may come into the same game. And it's possible that there could be some kind of a deal on all these three posts at the same time. So I think I will stop there for now, and perhaps we can have a discussion, and I'm sure you have your own ideas and questions. And,